management under conditions of oppression, then it's okay. Because it's not, well, I ain't gonna do nothing because I'll get bumped off by boss man. You know, it's not like that. It's like that we had to, or we have written, and we'll put it on paper. It's the reason why we haven't written anything for about 10 years. It's the reason for that. Because we didn't want to. We wanted this to be a total experimental stage on a higher level. Okay, and that's exactly what it was. So now when we write, we be able to explain this period from where we left off, where we were, where we are now, and hopefully where we're headed, taking into consideration that we're As-Sabiqun. So if we can anticipate then, we anticipate it now, we should be able to anticipate, right, where we're heading. And just going from the statements and the prognostications and the analysis and the forecasting that we've done, I think we right in the mix, right smack dab in the mix. I mean, to be almost super As-Sabiqun, because all the predictions that we have made seem to be right smack dab on it. You know, I mean, when Trump was going through his stuff years ago, first we said Trump is going to destroy the Republican Party, which he did. Then 2 weeks later we said, no, Trump is here to destroy the whole, you know what I mean? And so it became clear. And we said it at that time, the Zionist is going to weaken America, but control it. It has to be weak so it can control it. If America is doing everything it wants to do, then the Zionists can't tell it what to do. Because it's, you know what I mean? Now, the U.S. done messed up so much because of Zionists. Think about everything in the Middle East. Everything in that region is done because of what the Zionists want. When the Iraqis was working on nuclear weapons, in '81, the Zionists just flew over and blew the stuff up. And the U.S. talking about they wanted a treaty, and it makes you think that they never wanted any.
You're right.
That they never wanted anything, and that they was just dragging Zarif and them along. They used his desire, and they make some movies about stuff like that. They use their desire to be in. To be one of them, to mislead them. In the first go-round, I used to watch the nice little white lady, used to be there. You'd always see her standing right next to Zarif, all the time. When she'd come to Iran, she was a European, I'll think of her name, I do her name. She'd just be there all the time. And she'd have her talking to him all the time. You know, and I'm not saying he liked her or anything, but she was pretending to like him. But when they start acting up, he would call her all the time. What's going on? What's happening? And that might have been her job from the very beginning. You know. There's a sweet talk hymn, not from a male, female, but from a human perspective. What they talking about sounds better coming from her. And I would watch it when she would go to Iran, she'd put on a little hijab, stuff like that, you know. Okay, now, back to As-Sabiqun. See, As-Sabiqun has to be aware of all of that stuff. That name is not a joke. You got to be up on what's going on. Some of the things you'll say spontaneously before you can be stopped, like all the stuff we've talked about, we're definitely As-Sabiqun, because we've already talked about this 8 or 9, maybe 10 times, word for word. So it's saturated. We got the CD, a DVD, we got all of that. It don't make no difference how many people are on this stuff. When we get ready to flip the script, we'll duplicate all of what we have, we'll put it all, you know what I mean? We'll use the technology when we want. Why? Because we know Boss Man is not, you know, it may go 1 or 2 people, but it ain't going out to nobody. We already know that because of the response. There's nobody responding. And as deep as this stuff is, somebody would have to, somebody after hearing all of this stuff, they would have to respond, you know. And not that we're taking a long time, but people can watch their phone and listen to them lectures that are 1.5 hours, 2 hours long from the university on all the, just like I do, I'm sure you do. This guy is speaking on China and Western Asia. So we can sit there for hours watching that, because that's what we do. So other people can do that, and there would be enough people that picked up off what we been saying. And how could all of the people be, how could all the people in Oakland, how could all the people here, how could all the brothers when we used to have eat at the places, couldn't find no place to sit? How could that happen when all of a sudden, nothing? How could we talk down there on the stage and say takbirs and have 500,000 people paying attention and following what we say, if there wasn't some apparatus or control mechanism, right, to say, okay, you see that? Now, if you cooperate with us, this is what you'll have, right? Right. Okay, and we look at them and say, you can go to what's the name? Right. Yeah, we don't care. Everybody else, what? That's what they would want. So they put you in a position so you can see, hey, you stick with us, and you're going to be, hey man, you're going to be big time.
Right, and we see that.
Huh?
And we see that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is
right.
We see it, so does everybody else.
Right.
So that nobody can pretend, okay? And we go from, I don't know what, to having 10 full functioning centers around the country, packed with people. And then they're gone. That's what As-Sabiqun do. It has to show the people. So we're showing them that about the Muslims, but also all the other Negroes that you got, the big Negro lawyers, you know, talking and da-da-da-da-da. We're showing them that, hey, your whole thing is a setup. Your whole thing is false, you know, and Boss Man is false. Okay. Okay, let's speed up here. Speak spontaneous before one can be stopped. To turn spontaneously, instinctively, without knowing why. There's a Sabiqun do a lot of what they do based on faith. You know, regular good old time belief. And so Allah is not restricted in anything. And this is what Allah can send you help by avenues you never even thought of. So if Allah wants you to duck, He'll tell you to duck. by all kind of ways. It could be your shoes not tied, right? It could be you had a twitch and you said, what is this here, right? It could be anything, right? Everything is under, so this talks about spontaneity. It's saying that this person, those people act in a spontaneous way without having no idea of why they did it. They may figure it out later, but when they do it, they don't have an idea about. Now, this is the thing about belief. The people, I'm not saying they don't have belief, but if they trust in Allah, let me try to put it this way. We made some analysis. And we've studied our environment, and what make it happen, what goes against it, what diverts people, all of that stuff we've looked at, you know. The strategic analysis, that's all, it's just analyzing what we've been dealing with. Historically, going over all the history and coming up to date, and not only our history here, but the historical process of religion in general. That the prophets, the messengers, that all of those great personalities went through, but we got the guideline of what we're going to be dealing with, right? But we don't, so the Quran is here, we don't need no new words, right? So that's not necessary, we got this right here. So now suppose you're doing the best you can to implement this Quran and this Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So let's just be frank. How in the hell do people think, or that we're dumb enough to think, that we can go all around the world? If people said 30 years ago, Imam Musa ought to be the chief of the Muslim world, because that's what Dr. Siddiqui is saying. He didn't say nothing about nobody else. He said stuff I must have forgot about. This guy is the essence of everything that's good. As much as I didn't harass Dr. Siddiqui, but you know where you got a leader, but you're friendly enough, okay, what we gonna do now, Doc? You know, that type of stuff. So he knew I would be pushing him all the time, because I know he's good. You know, I know he's good because technically he's my leader and I know he's good at it. So the more I can push him, the better he's got to be. But I watched the people around him, they didn't feel the same way about him. They didn't feel that way, and I didn't know he knew it until he said what he said. He said, out of all of the home folks, out of all some of the Pakistanis, Arabs, they Arabic is super good, they this and another. And he's saying this guy is, and that's at the time when he knows he's going to pass away, right? And the doctor told him, if you go to South Africa, you're not coming back. And he told us all that. Everybody knew that. When you could see a big scar on his chest where his heart had been opened up before, all that stuff. Okay. Then we saw what they all did after he said it. They had a long-range plan, about 5 years or so. But after a while, they had systematically knocked the brother out. Right. They systematically did it. Right. They did it, and to them, they thought they're doing a good job. But let's continue.
Question.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard a program yesterday on NPR that was talking about Imam Khomeini. And what it was saying, it was actually the guy who was the one videotaping, who was recording his speeches or when he was in exile in France. I don't know if you heard it, but, you know, this guy was a leftist,
Right.
okay? So the whole premise of the program was that they were saying they were gonna use Imam Khomeini
Sure.
because they were intellectual,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So, but in the program, it was explaining how even those around him looked at the way he talked, and it was like common,
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
okay? And I relate that to how people look at this situation.
Right.
Okay, but what was interesting, although it was common speech to them, that's what related to the people of Iran.
Yes, indeed.
And so, you know, I just saw the parallels.
Right, right.
And so, you know,
I heard that out of the corner of my ear.
Okay.
That was yesterday or the day before?
I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, I heard it, but I'm gonna go listen to it again because I wasn't sitting. I could see that the guy was kind of a leftist, but I wasn't like. I had heard so much about Imam Khomeini. I thought it was just somebody shooting off at the mouth.
Right.
And but this is a deep movement. Let me go on with because all of this will be covered in As-Sabiqun without knowing why. To surpass, to beat. Already done it before. This has already happened before. Okay, now that means that, like, for us, it means that we've lived through something like this before. Something exactly like this. The life we lived in Jahiliyyah was almost verbatim like this. We came out to East Oakland Enterprise, Black Economic Enterprise Zones, you know what I mean? We were sharing the wealth. Everybody must have thought I was crazy, but I was sharing the wealth with everybody. Okay. Now, it just so happens that the other crews that didn't share with everybody, they came out with less than we did, but they made more money. I don't know how it happened, and it's still like that. You know, that when we wanted to go into this, what we're going into, we were able to run across, you know, what was needed. Anyway. It had already happened before. He had met him before. Let's just stop that. But we have previously already said that. Or we've already done that. It happened to me before. I experienced this before that. There has never been one before like that, and it's unprecedented. In other words, there's nobody that spoke like this to the system and done what we've been doing in front of the system and talking out the side of our mouth and got away with it. Nobody has been able to get away with it. So some kind of way, we had to appeal to boss man, and come at him in with unprecedented ways. Oh, you ain't so bad, you talking all that mess. Well, if you so bad, why don't you just let's have a psychological thing. You got all this psychological mumbo jumbo, and we here by ourselves. So I know that's an easy win for you. Y'all got a deal, nigga. That's basic. You can tell when they agree. You see what I mean? They agree. We're gonna run your black ass crazy. We're gonna do, hey boy, you ain't seen nothing yet. And since they done said that, it's not like, it's not like Shaitan and Allah, but when Shaitan see that Allah gave him a little time to do what he do, he said, oh, now watch and see. Yeah, shoot, I got a little time. You done said it. You know what I mean? I know you telling the truth all the time. It ain't no problem, right? So we done tricked boss man into a thing. That's what it is. He don't expect it. He don't know what it is. He just go by what I got 50 million agents around the world, and I have money, and I have this, and it's no problem. I'm just gonna run you crazy, Mr. Negro. Boy, you're gonna be begging for a way out after a while. Give you 2 weeks. And so then we get to playing with it. But remember, after we've gone along from 10 or 15 years ago, we done already got the word out. The same word we got now out, right? We done got that word out over and over and over again. Remember we talked about redundancy before? Redundancy, to go over and over and over and over and over and take only 5 or 6 basic subjects, right? So whenever we get wherever we're going, like this time, when we get into court, when we get into the things we're gonna do out there, this stuff is redundant. Why wouldn't boss man been able to do anything? Because we prevented him from Jump Street. He can't do anything about it because, he got tricked by the Negro. Yeah, he's got played out of pocket by the Negro. And that's not, that's like, and not where, the only one that don't want to play that is the Zionists. They just said, finish that nigga off and bump that, And you can see a lot of the things that come up. And that's why the FBI came by here a couple of years ago, and they said, basically it's out of our hands now. Said, but now for what we do, you can go to the airport, you can fly anywhere you want, you can do anything. And I thought he was lying, and I went to the airport, and they said, I said, okay. I started to stop, so wait just a minute. What do you mean I can just go? And then I get to the thing where they go in, they don't